Why is your virtual event failing? Or perhaps we should put it another way, why isn't it doing as well as you thought it would? As an event consultant for over 10 years, I have made my living pointing out the good from the bad and finding the downright ugly for a variety of clients for their virtual and physical events. And today we turn our attention almost exclusively to virtual events. As founder of the Virtual Event Campus, I have spent a lot of time over the past few months watching but also analysing virtual events. Now there's clearly a pent-up frustration from the world of events to return to normal, a normal which is not likely to return for a year if it really ever does. Don't we all want to deliver low-risk, high-return events that have a negligible environmental impact? Yes, but not if it's virtual. That's what the answer seems to be. So even now, as we attend an event that wouldn't happen were it not from the virtual world, virtual events are not loved. Tolerated, yes. Loved, definitely not. There's a lot of frustration with virtual and not everyone is having the success they had at their physical event or perhaps expected when they ran their first virtual event. Now I knew that an industry built on in-person events was going to struggle with digitalisation. We probably all did. Change is hard. Transformation is harder. Throw digital into the mix and we're all at sea. Now a couple of months ago I read this great blog post, virtual events proved to be a significant focus and frustration for event organisers. Within the article I found this absolute gem. Those hoping to replicate the casual networking of live events or showcase exhibitors and sponsors in the absence of a physical event are struggling. And it hit me, it's not virtual that's the problem, it's the approach that many organisers are taking. Many organisers are making simple mistakes and blaming virtual rather than considering that, the problem maybe isn't the virtual part of the event. It's probably the design of the event or how the planner is executing that event. So to start to delve into what we need to do to avoid failing virtually, my experience tells me that organisers are running their first online event and are frustrated that they haven't mastered a very complicated, fast-moving, multidiscipline project in a matter of weeks. They are learning that people won't sit through substandard, boring PowerPoint-led content as easily as they did at their physical event. It's hit them hard that sponsors want more value than can be delivered from simply placing logos on a virtual event platform. Many planners are trying to replicate the physical event rather than replicate the value proposition for their stakeholders. That's why they're getting frustrated. Organisers are finding out that connections are key, but they can't work out how to do it in a virtual environment. And there is a home truth that years of event organisers avoiding technology has meant that we're very far behind the curve. And painfully, they are realising that the loyal customers aren't that loyal when they see how easy it is to attend someone else's well-executed event or even their own event. That's where the frustration lies. Now this may be a hard list to swallow, so I would love to have some of your initial feedback on my opening thoughts. Now this is not easy, so what I want to do is to help you remove that sense of frustration and make this all a bit easier, well as much as I can in 30 minutes. And to do that, I want to highlight the 10 things that the events which are failing online are tending to have in common. Number 1, don't replicate your physical event. The temptation is massive, but don't do it. Your virtual event may have the same name as your physical event and the same objectives, but it's a different event, so you have to design your event for digital. Many planners are trying to replicate the physical event. Don't do that. Instead, replicate the value proposition that your stakeholders had from your physical event. Number 2, they're not thinking enough about what happens after the live event. One of the beautiful things about virtual events is that your event doesn't ever really finish. But too many organisers are caught up in that old physical mindset. When the lights went out, the event finished. We have to see our events as part of a campaign for sponsors and a community and learning hub for attendees. Now I bet it would surprise you to learn that at Practically Perfect PA we earn almost as much from the content we generate at our live events over the 12 months after the event has taken place. That's how important post-event and the creation of evergreen content can be. Spend as much time thinking about your post-event as you do your live event. Take advantage of the digital content you've created. So maybe you didn't get the numbers or the revenue, or perhaps the level of coverage you wanted for your sponsors from the live event. Don't give up. Maximise the virtual canvas to paint a new picture, one that extends long past your live event. Number 3, not engaging with the attendees after they have booked. Now, are you falling into the trap of only sending the automated emails from your platform, the 1 day and the 1 hour before the event emails? A lot of organisers are, and the ones that are failing online are really doing this. So they do the hard work of getting an attendee to book, but then they do nothing to keep them engaged or to actually get them to show up to the event. Churn rates of 50% are not sustainable. Number 4, trying to do too much off the bat. If there's one word that I want to resonate with you after the session, it's simplicity. Your first event should be as simple as you can deliver to match your stakeholders' expectations, and you should get a bit more complicated or braver or put your experience to use with each coming event. Now obviously simple is subjective, but make simplicity your watchword. Try too much at first and you fail. Even some of the biggest events have fallen into this trap and tried to do too much too early when they've gone online. Next up, not offering enough choice. If you have an event that's more than a couple of hours in duration, you need to offer your attendees choice. You have to do all you can to have them engage in your event. Virtual attendees are less likely than physical ones to sit in front of the content we have chosen for them. So give them plenty of choice of content. But that's not all. Allow them to network when they want and to engage in other areas of your platform. Number 6, not covering the fundamental 3 pillars. For your event to be successful, you have to make sure you recreate the 3 fundamental parts of most events. And I break these down into 3 pillars: content, connections, and coverage for your commercial partners. Now, not all events have to cover these 3 pillars, but if you're expecting people to engage with your event and you want to make some money, you need to make sure you cover all 3, or be sure that you drop the right one. The events that are failing online are not identifying which pillars to concentrate on. Many events are on platforms which do not support the most important pillar. Number 7, spending too much money on the platform or the production of the content. This may be the most important one in my list, so I want to take a moment here to pause. I want to add a little bit of context. Now, it will become increasingly important to produce high quality content at our virtual events. We have to professionalise. However, we have to do this while making a profit from our events. People tire of fancy bells and whistles or avatar-like graphics after a few minutes, so make sure you concentrate on the things that really matter. Delivering great engaging content, allowing people to interact with you, your speakers, your other stakeholders and each other, and that you create an event that's enjoyable for everyone. Now, I have seen some brilliant events on some very fancy platforms, and I know the organisers have spent $100,000 plus on the platform. One platform told me in May that they weren't interested in business under $60,000. You do not need to pay this amount to run great virtual events. Organisers are spending even more on the production of the event. You do not need to pay this amount to run great virtual events. These sums of money are not sustainable. Organisers should not fall for the sales patter from platform and production providers. They are there to support your event. They are not the stars. Spending this amount of money is an old school way of thinking, and it goes like this. Our venue cost us this much, so let's spend that on the platform. Our AV, so let's transfer that budget to virtual. No, that is not the way to do it. You have to be able to put on a virtual event cheaper than a physical event, or you will fail. It might look great, but where is the revenue? Now, as I said, the platform has to be good and the production has to be top notch, but you're not Netflix, so don't go overboard. If our events don't make a profit, you won't be making them for long. Now, in most cases, 6 figures is too much for a platform and too much for your production. Number 8, extending the event to such a degree that it's lost all the things that make it an event. Now, I've seen loads of events move there, for example, 3-day, 8-hour-a-day event online, and decide to mix it up by delivering a series of 1-hour talks across a few weeks. Ask yourself, what makes an event an event? I mean, think about it. For me, what tends to make an event is that something happens in front of people at the same time, something they can engage and interact with. At an event, people congregate to connect and share an experience. That's what makes an event. So if you spread your 3-day physical event across a month virtually, you aren't an event organiser anymore, and you've lost the essence of the event. You lose so much of what makes an event if you stretch it over a super long period of time. Some planners took this approach without proper thought and they saw numbers drop off very quickly. Revenue never materialised and found themselves producing an event every day for a month. If you take this approach, you have to redesign a lot more than the event. Many planners never made this investment in time and their events failed. Now, number 9 is not spending time and money on training staff in the ways of virtual. You can be pretty confident when watching any virtual event that you will tell if the organiser has undertaken some training in virtual events. The events that are failing are using staff that haven't had the time, money or resources to reskill. Running a great virtual event is hard. Now, when I looked at reskilling organisers as part of the Virtual Event Campus, I created a 12-module 3-month course. You can't just flip your skill set overnight. There is so much to cover. The next iteration of the course has 14 modules and the learning is set to continue. Number 10, and the final one, organisers are still advertising the event in much the same way as they did their physical event. Now, you've got to think and live digital. If you aren't sending targeted emails based on preferences to attendees, you're going to struggle. If you're relying on adverts and physical magazines, don't expect to cut through. If you're listing events in e-newsletters, it just won't cut it. This may have worked for your physical event, but you have to be much smarter to cut through. The virtual space is full of noise as thousands of virtual events take place every week, so you have to cut through. You have to look at generating inbound traffic. You have to be using social media to drive traffic to your event. You need a content marketing strategy. You have to think about pay-per-click. You have to engage influencers. You have to incentivize your stakeholders to share the event, and you have to embrace video content. The old ways just won't hack it. I have seen great events that have no attendees. Not upping your marketing game is a surefire way to fail online. So that's my 10 top reasons why virtual events are failing. I've got some more, but that's the top 10.